outside working on or at least trying to put the fence back together. I did construct another fence to actually put the fence back together because the crazy dog Betty had knocked it down, so I don't have my glasses on. But this is for atheists, and this is a question. I'm going to start off saying I do not care to argue with any atheists at any point, or anti-theist. I don't care, and I don't know why they care to argue with any religious person. Now, here's the question. I kind of have to start off explaining some things, because when you say religion, people are like, faith. Not all religions have faith in the Western sense. Or, I was once a Christian, so I know exactly what you're like. No, I'm Eastern Orthodox. To say that we believe in heaven or hell is, I can't bring myself to say that because our view of the afterlife is totally different. Because all things fall back to God, and there's no differentiation between a heaven or a hell. We don't believe Christ died as a punishment for, he didn't die because a wrathful God wanted to punish us. He didn't die as a blood sacrifice for our sins. He wasn't a human sacrifice. We don't believe that. We've never believed that. We don't believe in original sin. We are totally against proselytizing. This may shock Western Christians. But I want to go on to a broader subject. This is a serious question for atheists. And I do agree with Sam Harris that religion is a useless term. But it'll have to do for now. Now, knowing that religion is culture, is greatly influenced by culture and is culture to a great extent. So I'm just looking for an answer of what is, and seeing that most ancient religions don't have an afterlife. They just don't have an afterlife. It's absent from their belief. Or if they have an afterlife, the afterlife ends. Or the goal is to get to oblivion of what most atheists or objectivists or modern people would say. Modern thinkers would say just you're dead and you're gone. Like the goal of Buddhism is annihilation, oblivion, emptiness, deluding yourself into the self. The Brahman of Hinduism is like that. There's no more of you left. That's identifiably you. It's just the energy. It's actually kind of like nature. It's kind of like, energy going into the ground. Just like I'm sure you guys can't stand when people say, well, energy never dies, so my soul will live forever and I'll be thinking things. It's like, no, that's not, and you don't understand energy and matter, But religion is rituals, dogma, the society's morals, and I know morals shift, so no Orthodox person believes morals come from God. I'm talking about Eastern Orthodox, my belief system. So there's got to be an evolutionary purpose to religion, because man, even on isolated islands, have developed religion. And if man needs this psychodrama, and where's a great book to illustrate it? Here's a great book, the Satanic Bible, which blatantly states man needs rituals and dogma and the psychodrama, and these things acted out communally and privately. And as Christopher Hitchens says, as long as we remain a poorly evolved mammalian species with our thumb finger dexterities and all that it could be, and our frontal lobes are too small and our adrenaline glands are too big, and we're afraid of the dark and we're afraid to die. But it begins with, as long as we remain a poorly evolved mammalian species. So as long as we're in this state, as long as we're human, and even maybe when we evolve into something else, we'll still carry religion with us. What is the evolutionary advantage of it? Because it can't be, oh, it's the fear of death. Because people walk away from God all the time, and they have in the past. We hear of atheists in the past. There was an atheist in Syria around like 500 BC writing. I mean, his name escapes me. But he was writing about how the gods were foolish and this and that. And it's not, I mean, as soon as people become atheists, they don't suddenly die of fright. And it's certainly not because they're more evolved than somebody who believes in a God, and since it's, or in religion, in the Dharma or the Karma or the Tao, or you put any name on it you want. Religion, the intangible, the experience of life, love, experience. They're believing that the world is more than the sum total of its parts. Mysticism, basically. Why did this evolve into us? I mean, it's clearly part of the human condition. Why is it there? It has to serve a purpose. I don't buy fear of death. I think that can be counted out. And oh, it's just meant to explain things around us. Well, no. Science broke off very early. I mean, at least in history, maybe not in prehistory, but in history it broke off very early. That science and religion were two different things. That religion more or less were like theodicies. They explain the problems of evil or love or how to conduct yourself, or, you know, these myths that people, I mean, in the Greek culture people knew they were myths. They didn't take them literally. Actually, if you go back to ancient Christianity and Proto-Judaism, they knew that the stories in early Genesis are myths, and it's funny. It's only the very fundamentalist modern Christians that it's a 6,000-year-old Earth, and because you go back to Saint Basil the Great, who lived around 400 A.D., and he was against taking any of that literally, and he was devoutly religious. So, what is the purpose of religion? And if you deny God, and you're in a culture, shouldn't you still be going to that religious congregation? I mean, I never understood it. Why someone would disbelieve in God, but yet they abandon their whole culture. They abandon their religion. Why would it be connected? Why would you care? I mean, for 1,500 years, let's just use Eastern Orthodoxy for an example. You're brought into your culture a certain way, baptized, and 40 days after something, there's a celebration for that. Then there's a certain marriage ceremony, celebration for that, and there's a funeral. It's a way to grieve, and then 40 days after that, there's the ending of the grief. Officially, there is official rights into manhood in most religions, Judaism, all this stuff. Roman Catholicism has the different stages of life. It has, baptism, first communion, confirmation, then you're a man. It's this manhood ritual, which are psychologically needed in the human condition. And then the wedding ceremony, a celebration, and a death, a ritual that guides you through. And I mean, if you've been to funerals, it's actually, unless the pastor, and I've been to somewhere that some Protestant ones where the pastor was just using it as a stump to evangelize and proselytize, which is wicked and evil. But the actual ritual of it actually helps you get through it. It's kind of guides you along so you're not a scattered mess. So these things they're helpful, at least in the human condition. So the anti-theists that want to bash faith and God, okay. When you go after religion, you're also going after the root of many cultures. It's intertwined with most every culture. If you want to understand anything in Western history, in talking about Western history, I mean from the Euphrates over to Spain, you're going to have to know the Bible or the Quran, sometimes both. In the English language, the King James is actually extremely helpful for understanding just many things. We get many phrases from that. So why throw the baby out with the bathwater? well, I guess that's two questions. One, why throw the baby out for the bath with the bathwater, and two, why why is it automatic that if you don't believe in God, then you throw religion away? And I mean, I've seen many people become almost nihilists. And if you say, well, if there's no God, then the religion doesn't. I mean, it's funny how we can sort everything out, and we can disconnect so many things. But that seems one thing that where many modern, and I'm not accusing all atheists doing this, but many atheists say, and used to say, it's necessary, you must do it, you know. Whereas I've seen people who say, I personally don't believe in God, but I bring my children to church because, you know, it's a cultural thing. I've known communists to do that. Did we burn all the Greek myths? I mean, it's kind of funny. So just those two simple questions. I don't have no desire or want to argue with anybody. I really don't care to. So isn't religion useful? Even if you don't understand why, even if you don't understand the why we have religion, we have it, and we've had it for as long as we can trace people back. It's almost the identifier of what makes us human. The earliest point where we see, you know, buried bodies. I mean, I think they even found it with the Neanderthal. Yeah, so that's my question to atheists. Again, I don't care to argue. I don't want anybody bringing up Bible verses. I don't care. It's just the why, the how, and why not, basically. Why throw your culture? It kind of doesn't make sense to me. All right. Peace to you. May God save Serbia and Syria. All right, that's the atheists. Proselytizing. This may shock Western Christians, but I want to go on to a broader subject. This is a serious question for atheists. And I do agree with Sam Harris that religion is a useless term. But it'll have to do for now. Now, knowing that not all religions have faith in the Western sense. Or I was once a Christian, so I know exactly what you're like. No, I'm Eastern Orthodox. To say that we believe in heaven or hell is I can't bring myself to say that, because our view of the afterlife is totally different. Because all things fall back to God, and there's no differentiation between. I've been outside working on or at least trying to put the fence back together. I did construct another fence to actually put the fence back together, because the crazy dog Betty had knocked it down, so I don't have my glasses on. This is for atheists. And this is a question. I'm going to start off saying, I do not care to argue with any atheists at any point, or anti-theist. I don't care, and I don't know why they care to argue with any religious person. Now, here's the question. I kind of have to start off explaining some things, because when you say religion, people are like, faith. I mean, a heaven or a hell. We don't believe Christ died as a punishment for, he didn't die because a wrathful God wanted to punish us. He didn't die as a blood sacrifice for our sins. He wasn't a human sacrifice. We don't believe that. We've never believed that. We don't believe in original sin. We are totally against